Hello, Durud and Shalom. We be live. Hi, everyone. Guys, the economic situation in Iran is getting horrible. Getting so many videos outside of Iran, people showing how they're living, and it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable, and the pressure is being felt, and the regime is getting ready for uprisings. The regime is very scared of uprisings, and yeah, I'm gonna jump into our group call right now and talk about what we're seeing from inside Iran, whether any of this will work or not, and what to expect. But guys, if you guys want to join our group discussion, because I'm gonna jump into our group call right now. This is our group discussion. The link to it is in the description. It's in the QR code in the top left. How's my audio, everyone? Everything is okay? Let me know in the chat. Let me see our chat. Okay, people are here already. That's fantastic. Okay, let's look at our group call over here. All right, I see there's already 12 people here. And so let's just jump right in and start the conversation over there. Hold on, bear with me.
Right? I mean, he was the one, it was his.
Oh. Hey, Armin.
Armin.
Hello. Hi.
Hey, Armin.
Hi. Hi, guys. Sorry, I'm Jeff for everything. Oh, Alistair with the camera. That's fantastic. Oh, I love the flags. Love the flags. That's beautiful. That's great. Okay. Oh, Alistair, I'm gonna be. Did I respond to your previous messages? I think I did, right? I'm gonna make sure. Sorry if I haven't been, because I've been on the. I mentioned on the show earlier today. I have the best excuses if I haven't been responding. I was on national news 3 times in the past 24 hours. 3. This is a record for me. 3, not once, not twice, but 3 times, which is crazy. They keep calling me back, which is a good sign. All right. So, who's modding today?
Me, Danny.
Yes, Danny. Fantastic. Okay. So, all right, guys, before we start with your topics, please go ahead and put a 1 in the chat so that we get to your topics as well. I just wanted to do a report of what's happening inside Iran because of the current economic blockade. Which, again, remember, before I say any of this, remember that the Iranian people, they're blaming the Islamic Republic, right? So we're getting a lot of videos from inside Iran showing how devastating the situation is. But I haven't seen a single video that says, curse be upon America, why you're doing this to us. Not a single one. Every single one of these videos, you see people showing them what they're eating, and it's basically just oil and potatoes or bread and stuff that is like, there's no diversity, there's very low nutrition. They replaced like eating meat or anything like that has become like something that people have completely canceled from their daily food intake. And they're making videos of their new condition, either standing in line. I saw a video, somebody saying like, I think we'll be spending half of our lives in line for fuel. This guy is like, this is half my life, just in line for fuel. But not a single one of those videos, guys, that we're saying is blaming the Americans. Every single one of them, if there is a complaint at the end of it, is cursing the Islamic Republic. I don't know if this has happened in history before. Like, let me know if it has, right? For another country to come and put a blockade on economic blockade on you, and the people not cursing the country that is putting the economic blockade on you, but the regime that is governing over them. I think this is unprecedented. Has this ever happened? Because usually throughout history, when there is your government and there's their government, and there are war, and the people support their government against the government that is doing this to them. But the Iranian people are cursing the Islamic Republic for the current economic situation they're in, and they're not at all blaming the United States, which is really unique historically. And, our situation is also unique. So, as I said, people are just recording. And by the way, let me tell you how unusual this is for Iranians, because Iranians are famous for I mean, alongside many other cultures around that area in the East, right, is that you try to save face, right? That means that you don't it's embarrassing to show people how bad your economic struggles. That you hide that, you don't share that, right? We have a saying in Persian saying با سیلی صورت رو سرخ نگه داشتن, which means that if your face is not red because of you're not don't have enough food or you're sick or whatever, slap yourself so you make your cheeks red so people think like you're healthy. Like you slap yourself to keep your cheeks red, for the sake of keeping appearances, right? That's a saying in Persian, right? And when I was in Iran 20 years ago, the idea of people telling each other, oh my God, look, I don't have food, was unheard of. That's not what that is embarrassing. You not being able to afford stuff, that is not something that you share publicly. That's something that you hide as much as possible, right? So the idea that this many Iranians are going publicly and recording their lifestyles and sharing like look at how crappy the situation is, how bad my life is, and putting it online is a cultural shift in Iran. And I think the reason why that's becoming so normalized to show people how bad you're having it is because everybody else is in the same boat. So it's more normal to talk about it because it's happening to so many people, right? So most of the videos that are coming out is either because of the current lack of affordability, one, or two, like that shows. I mean, all of them is about lack of lower standard of living, but they're most of them come in two format. Either people are showing what they're eating, or they're showing that they're stuck in lines to get gas for their car. Right. So everywhere else in the world, people are on Instagram taking pictures of their food to show people how great their food is. Look at it as this is the popular Instagram picture. Look at my coffee. Look at my food. Look at this restaurant. In Iran, everybody's taking pictures of their food to show how bad it is, how little it is, how lack of nutrition, how poor they are. Right. So this has become a new ritual in Iran. People taking pictures of their food to show how little they can afford, which is tragic. There's the middle class has completely evaporated in Iran. You're either very rich or you're very poor. This is a reason why I think that Operation Economic Fury or Economic Outcast is not enough, right? This is why Amu Jeff keeps telling us about the 5x5, right? Because it is working. It is working in weakening the Islamic Republic, but it's also weakening the Iranian people. And the Iranian people are the main asset that we need to topple the regime. Even if you don't personally care about the Iranian people, if somebody doesn't care about them, if you're not an Iranian, at the end of the day, the Islamic Republic is your enemy. And the main asset you have against your enemy, your number one enemy, is the Iranian people. And a weaker base of Iranian people is a reduction of the force that is against the regime. So this is why every time I get invited on these platforms, and I was just on Newsmax, and I said the same thing. I said that this Operation Economic Outcast is working. It's really working. I mean, it is. We have to still see how aggressive they are going to be against China, because China has some tools, unlike other countries, to be able to push back, especially with their smaller companies. The bigger companies, the bigger refiners, the bigger banks, they don't want to piss off Americans, because their business models is tied into them. But smaller refineries and smaller financial institutions, a lot of them are focused on basically taking advantage of the arbitrage with the risk associated to deal with the Islamic Republic, and that's what their profit model is. And the whole purpose of them is to go around the sanctions, right? And because the Chinese have system that is not based on the US dollar, and also because they use a wiring transfer that is not SWIFT, these companies have access to more. They have much more of an ability. They have more tools in their toolbox into helping the Islamic Republic go around Operation Economic Outcast. So if anybody could do it, it would be these smaller Chinese companies. So we have to see if United States will be able to tie those holes, to close those holes or not. But even if they are, it's just, I don't think that this alone is enough to bring down the Islamic Republic. There's a concern that if we don't do the 5x5 that MGF tells us, if we don't arm the Iranian people, if we don't go in with Israel to kill the regime people, that this looks more like a plan to bring the Islamic Republic back on the back to the negotiating table rather than ending the regime, right? And even if this is a bad end of regime, it could take years to be stuck here if we don't do those other things that needs to be added to all of this, right? And we don't have years. I know exactly. That's why we need to do the 5x5. That's why we need to do all these other things that Amujef is talking about. Yeah. So, anyways, I just wanted to start with that and see what you guys have to say. And if you want to put a 2 in the chat to add anything to this, I would appreciate that. But yes, are there any 2s?
Yes, Jose put a 2.
Armin, welcome to the club. Cuba's been going through this 20 years longer than the Ayatollah's been in control of Iran. The difference is there's no United States government ships out at sea tearing to tear us down or attack the island because they don't need to. But if the Cubans can survive 60 years, the people in the countryside are a little bit better than people in the cities. People in cities have to go because they can't grow their own foods. People in the countryside where I'm from, you live on malanga, boniato, yuca, and you can actually eat a decent meal off the 3 if you can trade for the other 2, And what are people growing? Those. Sometimes they actually have a couple of sugarcane stalks so they can have something for the sweets for the kids. As a matter of fact, the number one soft drink for anyone in Cuba is they take an entire stalk of sugarcane and they run it through a mill and create a yellow piss-like looking pure sugar drink, which is very addicting from what I hear. But the fact that it looks like piss tells me I'm not going to touch it, just in case. But yeah, I mean, it's and I can tell you right now, the people, the only time they blame the United States is when they get extra benefits from the government. After that, they blame their own government. And recently, in the last 10 years, Cubans have been going to Cuba and handing over their cell phones and then paying for the cell phone bills back here in the United States. So there's a lot of, if you look on X, you'll be able to see a lot of Cubans from Cuba posting on X, on Instagram, on Facebook sometimes even, a little video of what's going on. And those trash heaps, some are looking for food, but the veterans are looking there for copper, for nickel, the rare earth elements that they can sell for US dollars and be able to afford, going to the dollar stores, because you need dollars to buy anything worth a damn in Cuba. I told these guys a little while ago on the after show that, what's a normal grocery item in Cuba in one of the stores? It's like going to Sam's Club or Costco, and you have these big industrial cans of okra or peas. It'll feed a family for a month in that product. That's what you buy, one of those. And your ration book says you can have one of those cans. That's it, at a reduced price. But that's it. There's nothing else to choose from. One product of one kind. So, and I don't even know how much that's getting through now with the economic blockade that's getting into Cuba. But when you see people talk out of Cuba, and those of you that I've shared the Radio Martin that speaks Spanish out of this group will hear people calling in from Cuba using WhatsApp and their actual cell phone numbers to talk to the radio stations. And you're going to hear them talk about how long, it's something that you got to understand. There's meat in Cuba, but being caught slaughtering an animal or cooking meat without a license is 20 years. You get less for stealing a piece of bread. So they don't do it. They're very careful. So yeah, welcome to the club, man. Welcome to the club. And it sucks.
Thanks, Jose. Jeffrey, you're up next.
Yeah, I mean, again, Armin brought up all the valid points, right? It's not just we can't wait for years. We don't have years. You can see that now, both from a time we're operating under time compression, both at a broader geopolitical and geostrategic perspective, right? Putin getting more belligerent in the intermarium, which that'll be the thing I'll talk about as an issue. Ratcliffe's, CIA Director Ratcliffe's visit to Moscow and what that means, along with the time compression inside Iran, which is Iranian people are suffering because the mullah regime, now regime remnants, are.
Did you come
Can you hear
here?
me?
Danny, your mic is open.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Sorry about that. That they're suffering. And it says something quite significant about Iranian people, that they understand, even though that you don't see them bashing America, they're calling out the mullah regime, now regime remnants, that it's illegally occupied Iran since 1979. Right? They understand where the origins of their troubles comes from. It also shows the level of alignment of the anti-mullah diaspora with the United States and our Gulf state and or Israeli allies. Right? Everybody's your friend till the bill comes due. That's when you find out when your real friends are. Just like when Iranian people asked for Trump to intervene, he did. They found out who their real friends are, unlike Obama. And, similarly, the observation goes the other way. Iranian people are suffering because the mullah regime is trying to use them as socioeconomic human shields, right? To insulate or offset the Operation Economic Fury, now Economic Outcast, to put financial constraints on their ability both to pay their proxies and or pursue acts of belligerency, as well as pay people inside Iran to continually oppress Iranian people. So yeah, three things have to happen. The economic stuff definitely needs to happen. I'm glad President Trump's doing that. We definitely cleared out a lot of the mines in the Strait of Hormuz using certain revolutionary technologies, not the least of which is underwater autonomous drones. The other one is 5x5 and killing, with the direct focus on killing the repressive element inside Iran, to give Iranian people the best shot they have at liberating their country. Along with that, Operation Sovereign Tide, which is in part and parcel some of the things that are in Operation Economic Outcast. Read liberating all of the Dark Sea Fleet elements that the mullah regime tries to use to circumvent sanctions. I would contend they should then sail it to a U.S. or allied port, sell it at market prices, sans the operational costs. And that does three things. It denies the mullah regime remnants financial resources. It provides His Highness Prince Reza Pahlavi, which is the third line of effort I'll get to, resources to both assist the transition in a post-mullah regime environment, as well as to train lawful unconventional combatants. And it denies oil to the Chinese Communist Party regarding their teapot industries. And finally is naming His Highness Prince Reza Pahlavi's headed transitionary government as the official government in exile, so it streamlines all the legal gates so that people can start legitimately providing non-lesser and kinetic lines of effort for Iranian resistance. Either way, though, we don't have years. I would contend, at least as to the best of my knowledge and assessment, given where things are at right now, we don't have years. So, I'm glad we're moving in the right direction, and I'm glad, Armin, that you keep pushing the other subsidiary lines of effort. Well done. Oh, also, Amy, sorry that Amu Jeff was scratching his ear. I have psoriasis, and it drives me bananas. I got to make sure my ear's not bleeding. I know that seems a little odd. Forgive me. It's off-putting.
Okay. Don't worry about it. Okay. So I don't think we have any more twos. Let's check on super chats.
Yeah, we have Ellie. Ellie, thank you so much. Ellie Goldman just gave us one membership gift to somebody in the chat. So somebody is now a member because of Ellie. Thank you so much, Ellie. All right. Next topic.
All right. I wanted to do Jeff's topic first because he wanted to bring it up yesterday about CIA Chief Ratcliffe's visit to Russia.
There we go.
Right.
Well, So, as if to reiterate the point why we do not have time, or we're operating under extreme time compression. So it's pretty clear now that CIA Director Ratcliffe's visit to Moscow very much centered around, or I can say with a very high degree of human certainty, here's kind of like what open intelligence sources, including statements by the administration, demonstrate to me. The principal reason was to provide a warning to Putin's criminalized counterintelligence state surrounding what seems to be increasing indicators demonstrating they want to attack NATO, particularly the Baltic states, or say things going across Belarus and the Polish border. Stop examining or preparing options for like increased gray zone conflicts. So that's like cyber warfare, sabotage teams, all this other stupid shit they're doing, to outline that we know exactly what he's doing with regards to Belarus's current readiness activity as it's relevant to those two issues, as well as to outline it's also clear that Iran, Putin's criminalized counterintelligence, providing assistance in targeting to the regime remnants and targeting U.S. forces also needs to end. I would contend, and this is just me, basing it on, shooting a little bit from the hip. The short and skinny of that would be, this administration is making it very clear to Putin he's not fucking Biden. Do not test NATO. We will respond, and Donald will let those fucking missiles fly. Suggest you try to convince this creepy transgender bambushka KGB sukabiat bitch to stop fucking playing brinksmanship with Donald, because he's not going to blink. Biden might. Did. Obama did. That's not Donald. Right? There's a reason Putin didn't invade Ukraine under President Trump's first term. He made it very clear. It's true. Hi, Vlad. It looks like, I know we're the best of friends, and you had a great chocolate cake. It looks like, though, our intelligence says you might be thinking about invading Ukraine. I hate to say this, Vlad. I don't know if you do it. I don't know what you call those gold onion things on the Kremlin. If you invade Ukraine, I'm going to have to blow them up. Like, he means that shit. While Donald his default setting it's not as forward facing as, say, a neocon like myself. He definitely is not Obama or Biden. Do not push this man. I think that, that the context, the fact that, and I'm glad that both President Trump is in the White House and that he sent CIA Director Ratcliffe there to reiterate that point to that shit gurgling KGB bitch. Stop fucking around with Donald in the White House. Do not test NATO. Right? We don't have years, Armin. I meant what I said when I first was asked, when I first started coming on your show. All of these different conflicts they're not separate wars. They're separate battles in a broader war between the United States-led Western Alliance and those that are aligned, and the other ones that are are still aligned with us or adjacent to us, right? Including Iranian resistance and the autocratic bloc. And Iranian kids, when they stood up against the Mullah regime, weren't doing so just to liberate Iran from the Mullah regime that's occupied Iran. In their own way, they were fighting that battle in an effort to save the war from these bastards.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Alistair put it too.
In my opinion, Putin's going to stop the same way the Islamic Republic stops, if that makes sense. There's no way to get him to stop. You got to get him out, because you know, he's hit that, especially Jeffrey and I were speaking about this earlier. He's hit that point where he's had the 25 plus years of unchecked power, and he's delusional. He's absolutely delusional, and he's surrounded by yes men. You know, I again, Jeffrey and I were talking about this earlier. Putin did an interview a few weeks ago, or around a month ago, I believe, where he was out there naming cities that don't exist. He was mentioning front lines that they captured that don't even exist. He's mentioning they captured cities that haven't even had Russian troops there for like months, if not years. Like, he's delusional. The same way, like it's like the same way that they're obsessed, that the Islamic Republic is obsessed with Islam and Shia Islam. He's obsessed with the Soviet Union and this idea of bringing back the true empire, or like the true world power, which is in his mind is the Soviet Union.
Okay, thank you. I don't think there are any other twos on this topic, so I guess we can move on. Are there super chats?
There are no super chats, so let's go to the next topic.
Okay, the next topic is by Kari about the King of Norway's health condition.
Oh, wow.
I first had to check to see if that was still the topic, because I've basically been checking that the whole day. Okay, so it's 9:30 in the evening here now, and this morning we got the news that the King of Norway was gravely ill. He has been in hospital for over a week. He's 89 years old, and there's been non-stop news coverage all day. And we've basically been just waiting all day for more news without really getting any, except seeing that his family has been visiting the hospital and people have been laying down flowers in front of the Royal Palace in Oslo. So I could say a little about him. He was born in 1937 during the war. Norway was occupied by Nazi Germany, and the Norwegian royal family was scattered in exile. Little Prince Harald lived in Washington, D.C. with his mother, where they were kind of taken care of by FDR. And then they came home after the war, and in 1957, his father became king. He got married in the late 60s after persuading his father to let him marry a commoner. His two children were born in the 1970s, and then he became king in 1991. And so he's been king throughout my entire life. Yeah.
Wait, how much of an influence they have on politics?
None.
None? Okay. So what is
But he's like it's like a national grandpa, essentially.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what about what he says? Or does what he says and advocate for and have anything to do on influence in politics?
What he says is generally quite milquetoast and uncontroversial, and basically that we all have to, stick together and be all friends with each other. Basically, that's the sort of thing that the king says in Norway.
Do people love him?
Yes.
Okay.
The vast majority, yes. He's very well beloved, like basically kind of national grandpa, like Queen Elizabeth was towards the end, when she was kind of Britain's grandmother, basically.
Okay, very interesting. Well, I'm sorry for what you are going through as a nation.
I could say, though, something that's relevant here, that something that came out, which was an outrageous thing about the Labour Party government. After October 7th, our king wanted to send a letter of condolence to Israel, but the Labour Party government refused him, because they said that it would be political. And the king is a
Oh.
ceremonial figurehead who then, followed the government's instruction and didn't, but he wanted to.
Interesting. So the king does not only the king has no executive power, they don't even have power over what letters they could send to people.
No.
Yeah. Okay. Wow, interesting. Okay, that's probably if we have in Iran, if we have a constitutional monarchy, our king will probably have more influence than that, probably, but I'm not sure. Yeah, something in between what you have and what it used to be. So it does. Would his death have any impact on anything political, or would it just be like a loss?
It would just move on. His son would automatically become king, and the system would continue as normal, and it would have no effect on policy at all. It's just that maybe this isn't relevant for this discussion or this chat at all, but it's just what's been on my mind all day long, and basically all of my fellow countrymen.
Well, again, I'm sorry for what you and your fellow people, your fellow countrymen are going through. Our condolences. I mean, our thoughts, and for people who believe our prayers. Maybe not condolences, because he's still alive. All right. Okay. Thank you for sharing that.
I don't see any twos, so we can check on super chats.
Yep. No super chat, so we could go to the next topic.
Then Noah wants to talk about burning holy books.
All right, burning holy books.
Yeah, so before I talk about it, I just want to say, Korg, I'm sorry about what you and everyone in Norway is going through. So
there's a background noise.
It's not me.
Okay,
yeah, I got it. Go on.
Oh, okay. So I figured this would be something you'd be interested in talking about, Armin. So about a month ago, a video came across my YouTube feed of a video from about 7 years ago of someone burning the Quran. And I found it interesting because in addition to burning that book, he burned his own book as well. And I know you figured it out quickly. Yeah, I'm talking. Yeah, it's you, Armin, but I'm not criticizing you for it, by the way. I wanted to personally understand why you did it, and also, so I don't misrepresent you at all. I was wondering why you did it, and is it okay to burn any type of holy book, whether it be the Quran, the Bible? And to finish my thoughts, because as a practicing Christian, when you were doing that, it kind of made my skin crawl a little bit. I don't know if it's because like how I was raised and all that, but like I said, I understood why you did it, so I'm not like mad or anything. But that's all.
Wait, so yeah, I actually, when I burned the Quran, it's still on YouTube. I burned the Quran, and I also burned my own book that I wrote next to it at the same time, because I was trying to make a point that I can take it, So it's the Quran is, because I was trying to represent to answer all criticism, right? Some people were saying book burning as a whole is the wrong thing to do, right? And you're basically the people who used to do book burning were the Nazis. So I said, well, the Nazis, when they were burning books, they were trying to reduce people's access to information, and they were burning other people's books. And the Quran that I'm burning, I paid for it on Amazon. This is my property, and I'm against burning anyone else's Quran because it's their property. And if you burn someone's Quran, that's not only immoral, it's a crime. I'm not burning anyone else's Quran. I'm burning the Quran that I paid for. That is my property, and I do get to burn it. And I'm not reducing anyone's access to the Quran, because the Quran, unlike before where books were the main medium of storing information, right now the Quran is everywhere, right? And the Quran that I prayed for and burned was probably printed because I bought and burned it. Like, it didn't reduce the number of Qurans in the world because I paid for it. That no one's access to the Quran was reduced. I showed people on my phone, like, look, the Quran is available in an app. You could download it. No one's access to Quran has been limited, right? And this is my property, and it's not removing information, right, from in the world. Then people were saying that, well, why are you burning it? Is you're adding carbon dioxide, is bad for the environment. So I donated to offset my carbon footprint in that video. I donated enough for 1 ton of carbon dioxide to offset that, right? So I had that paper ready to show that I have more than offset the amount of carbon dioxide that I'm adding to the environment with that donation. And people were just saying, then people were saying this is hateful, right? So I was like, well, I'm going to burn my own book as well, right next to the Quran, right? So how could I be hateful? Am I hating myself? Is this hateful against me, right? So I was like challenging people. What's your objection? Tell me what the objection is, because I was trying to basically remove every single possible objection that is out there, right? Some people are saying, well, it offends people. People will not like it. And I said that at the beginning of the video, I said, guys, I'm going to burn the Quran today, and I'm not going to do it right at the beginning. So you have plenty of time to not watch this video before it gets to the Quran burning part, right? Because people are like, well, people don't like the Quran, seeing the Quran being burned. And like, that's okay. They don't have to see it. So I'm going to give you plenty of warning that at some point during this video, a Quran will be burned. So click away, go somewhere else. Don't watch the thing that you don't want to see, right? So if you don't like seeing a Quran being burned, you're not going to see it because I warned you, right? So again, what I kept on asking, like, I just wanted to make sure that I'm covering every single argument that people have against me burning it. Some people are like, okay, well, what's the point then? Why are you burning the Quran? Okay, fine. There's nothing wrong with it, but what's the benefit? What benefit are you getting out of this? And the point was, I'm making a point that if you don't like to see something, then you don't watch that. If you don't like content, you don't consume it. The point is that the responsibility of you taking offense it's on you. Like, the person who's creating a content, it is not their responsibility to not produce a content that you don't like. It is your responsibility to, if you don't want to get offended, or if you don't want to get your feelings hurt, which I don't recommend. I think people should try to grow a thick skin, but it's your choice. But any person that doesn't like a certain type of content, it is their job not to see that content. And it's actually very easy not to see the content that you don't like. It's very easy, right? It is not the responsibility of the content creator to avoid making the content that you don't like. It is your responsibility to not consume the content that you don't like, right? So the only way your complaint would make sense is that if I was forcing this upon you, if I was making it impossible or difficult, even just difficult for you to not see a burning of the Quran that you don't like to see. So that's the point. That the point of the video was to make that point. But Noah, do you have any reasons for that? Why I shouldn't have made that video?
No, not at all. I years ago I thought about I was wanting to burn a Quran and myself, and just me personally, not anything like that. I don't have anything against it. It's just maybe because I grew up in a religious household. It's just hard for me to watch something like that. But at the same, I made myself watch it because I found it interesting. So, and you're right. If you don't like something, you don't have to watch it. So, I agree with everything you said, Armin. So, thank you for.
So let me criticize myself a little bit, okay? Because I have moved away from burning the Quran, and I think a better form of blasphemy on the Quran is spitting on it. Spitting on it for two reasons, right? First of all, I don't want anybody to burn their own house down. It's safer, right? I'm worried that if you say like, oh, here's a form of blasphemy, if somebody like, oh, I want to do that, it might be dangerous, and they might not do it in the most safe way, and they might like it could be dangerous. One. Two, actually, three reasons actually. 2 and 3 are almost the same. Two, burning. If Muslims knew their own history, they wouldn't be offended by the Quran burning, because burning a Quran is actually an official way to dispose of the Quran Islamically, right? So to avoid getting Islam dirt or something else on it, the Quran something else on it that it shouldn't be on it. If a Quran is getting too old to use, you either have to bury it somewhere deep, or you have to one official way is to burn it, right? So Muslims who are getting offended over Quran burning don't know their own history. Three, spitting on it is even more offensive than burning it anyways. So if you want to make offensive content, that to make a point that not watching offensive content is your responsibility, I think spitting on it is easier and less dangerous, and does the job even better. So that's what I think.
Thank you, Armin.
No worries.
Okay, let's go to the responses. Elisa is first.
Yeah, Armin, I just want to say that as somebody who is religious, I think that I condemn book burning when it is done specifically in the context of trying to keep knowledge from other people. When you are going out of your way to destroy knowledge, to prevent other people from gaining access to knowledge, I condemn book burning like unequivocally. I think that when you are burning your personal property because you're trying to make a point, even if I don't like it, even if I find it upsetting, that doesn't really have anything to do with me. Uh, I have no authority to kind of intervene with that. And then, the other thing that I would say is that, you know, uh, uh, religion religion is a very personal thing, right? It all comes down to your personal relationship with the divine, or maybe you choose that to believe that there isn't a divine and you have no relationship with the divine. There's no divine, there's just nature, there's just the universe, it's just this life, this is all we have, and maybe you choose to believe that, and that's fine. But it's not my job to tell you how to think or what to think. It's my job to be a good neighbor, be a good citizen, and to love you. My job is to love you. And 1 Corinthians 13 says that love is patient and kind. That's my job. I'm not here to save you. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm here to love you.
Oh, I appreciate that, Elisa. Thank you. And you are a good citizen. One of the best. Oh.
Okay, let's get a response from Jeffrey next.
So it's actually interesting you brought that up. It kind of reminds me of some of the interactions that I had with some of the institutionalized radical left-wing dickheads that tragically occupy Syracuse and are destroying that institution to this very day. So throughout my time there, I consistently seen professors, like radical leftist professors, some of them terrorists, like they had Angela Davis teaching there as a distinguished professor, Horace Campbell is a member of the Weathermen, all this other shit, attacking like Christians, Jews, veterans, law enforcement, people who are pro-Israel. I mean, the list would go on and on, be endless. So there came a moment where I'd had enough of their bullshit. And it was when a very particularly vile woman, her name is Tiffany Steinberg, who openly has open ties to both the Muslim Brotherhood and the Sandinistas that occupy Nicaragua, very much subscribes to liberation theology, very much co-opted things like, I'm going somewhere with this, very much co-opted things like the challenges facing the LGBT community to serve as a backdrop for her anti-American, anti-Western, third worldism and or careerism, right? She decided to be a facilitator for an Islamic apologist demonstration on campus on September 11, 2010, and timing it to the moments the planes hit the building, in direct response and rebuttal to what I would contend, and most Americans agreed, was the righteous outrage of trying to build a mosque at Ground Zero, which then redesignated the Cordoba Islamic Cultural Center. Right? So I was like, you know what? That's super shitty. I asked her, like, did you even, I actually invited her to go out to coffee just to talk about the lack of foresight on that. I mean, there were kids that attended that university that lost their family members in the terrorist attack of September 11th. There are people who were deployed there. I was one of them. Like, did you even care? Didn't care. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to have haram chop. You're saying it's your First Amendment? Fantastic. I'm going to have haram chop day where I cook pork chops using Quran as the fuel. And I'm going to cite your bullshit as the fucking reason why. So what happened was she falsified reports to the Department of Public Safety. I had to meet with the captain. His name was Captain Sardino. 3 times when they admit on camera that I had not violated any local, state, or federal law or any element of the student code of conduct. And he openly admitted, if you keep doing shit like this, the people who run this university are going to target your academic and professional livelihood, which they did. And the people they're tied to will quite possibly kill your family. And my response is, I'm not going to do that. I don't care what they do. I'm not one of these kids. And I'm not trying to do this to be provocative, right? So I offered a way out. You wanted a way out? Fine. I'll give you a way out for de-escalation. You'll have her meet me with the dean of students, and we'll talk about why it is she shouldn't have done that, right? Totally just dismissed me. They didn't want to fucking sit. They all lied. I mean, I can go on. Just go look me up on YouTube. You'll see the fucking video recording I had of the shit I went through with them, or SU exposed. So what's my point? Respect is a two-way street, right? Armin, you were trying. I understand what you're doing. I did it in my own way. You're trying to have a rational argument with people who are not honest brokers, bro. Leftists don't give a flying hobo, dick cheese, sweet and sour kung pao chicken fuck. They don't care if you go, look, this is what the data says. Bah, 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 bah. I'm that way. They don't care. It's not because they lack information. It's because they're a bunch of self-entitled, narcissistic assholes who co-opt any issue under the sun, just like Marxist ideology and all its subsidiaries tell them to do, to provoke people or justify their fucking abuse. And that was, I remember telling Captain Sardino, my family are practicing Sunni Muslim. We tried everything under the sun. What do you think we should do with all Muslims? Kill them? No, I don't appreciate you trying to fucking pigeonhole me as some kind of genocidal lunatic. That's not my point. My point is, I've been at this university for 3 years, and I've seen consistently members of the student body, the institutionalized left-wing bias here deems undesirable, both in word and deed, punish and abuse. And the ones that do that, in direct violation of their constitutional and students' rights, by the way. I'm tired of them bullying people. Stop fucking with people. So, the reason I shared that, I ultimately didn't have that because they lied. Right? Oh, well, we'll have this meeting. Tiffany Stein didn't even show up. You should watch it. You should watch the video. Shit egg rolls. Come with receipts. I'm with Jeff, comes with receipts. So I very much appreciate what you're trying to do. I understand, at least I think I do, from what you shared. I'm just saying you're trying a rational argument with people who are not honest brokers. One might argue, well, it's not those people that's your target audience, it's the other ones who you can change. I totally get that too. I'm just saying, respect is a two-way street. And you don't see that with the left or the Red-Green Alliance because their goal has never been respect. It's about power and realizing whatever fucked up oppositional goal they're pursuing.
All right, thanks, Jeff. Let's go to Jewish Samantha next.
I don't know if you were planning on doing private residence or college campus, Jeff, but it is a real safety concern. You can't just start fires on a college campus if you were planning to do it on a campus. If you wanted to do a private residence, that's fine, but college campus, you can't like it doesn't matter what you're burning. That being said, Armin, since you're not on a college campus, I was wondering, can you burn Mao Zedong's Little Red Book next?
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, okay, sure, why not? I mean, I don't want to burn things. I want to spit it. Like, I don't want to encourage. I'm afraid that somebody's going to set themselves on fire because of me encouraging things. I used to, I mean, I that's why I'm like, if you want to insult a book, just spit on it or something like that, or make stuff like that. Yes, but yes, for sure. How about you? You should do that. My background was Islam, so I did that with the Quran. Your background was like Maoism. So do you want to do that at some point?
I know this is going to sound totally babyish. I'm honestly kind of scared to touch my copy of Mao's Little Red Book. I have not physically touched it in so long that I'm actually kind of almost scared. I know nothing bad's going to happen, and that's like irrational, but like I'm scared.
Okay. So what do you think that would achieve if we like insult? Because because here's the thing, the Quran has a place in Islam that is divine and holy, but do Maoists kind of like, wouldn't the Maoists be like meh? Like, because here's the thing, there's no point doing, because the point that we're making when we're making when we're doing that to the Quran is not that we disagree with the Quran. Because we do disagree with the Quran, but to show your disagreement with the Quran, you analyze it, you criticize it, and you basically show why it's wrong, right? But when you insult the Quran, it's not about demonstrating that the Quran is wrong, because insulting the Quran doesn't demonstrate that, right? The insulting of the Quran is to push back against offense being used as censorship, right? So even if the Quran was the best book written ever, and every single line of it was absolute pure truth, and the best model on how to live, right? If the Quran was a book like that, and people said, "Don't offend this book," and there will be don't insult this book, and there will be consequences if you do insult this book. Then there would be utility to insulting the book, even if it's a good book, right? So, and it's also true the other way around, right? If a book is a crappy book that causes so much evil, and it has the most vile, disgusting views in it, but people don't take offense to you insulting it, and there is no consequences to you insulting it, right, as a form of censorship, then I would voice my opinions against that book, but there's no point in insulting it, because people are not censoring insulting it, right? So the Quran has both of those qualities, and they're separate things, right? One is the quality of it being a garbage book that teaches vile things, and for that reason we criticize it. But then second, and separate to that, it's a book that people try to intimidate you if you try to insult it. And then when we insult it, it's not about the Quran anymore. It's about free speech and freedom of expression, right? That's the utility of insulting it. So when it comes to, so you educate me on this, right? Because I know Mao's book is a garbage book, that it doesn't serve humanity, and for that reason it makes sense to criticize it. But do people take I mean, I'm pretty sure people do take offense, but is there any form of are there major consequences to like somebody, I don't know, spitting on it or like insulting it? Is that such a thing?
Other than, I mean, define major consequences. You would definitely piss off a lot of Maoists. I mean, like, it depends if Maoists have the ability to inflict consequences on you, I guess is the answer. Like, if you're in a life situation where Maoists can inflict consequences on you, yes, there can definitely be consequences. But, like, I'm guessing that you are not currently in a life situation where Maoists can inflict consequences on you, so.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know if there's enough utility to doing something like that. I think there's only one book that has that position right now, and that's the Quran. You know, I don't know if there's any other book that there's this level of censorship, this level of intimidation regarding talk, insulting it or criticizing it. And this is an anti-intimidation thing. I mean, but except your experience, Samantha, you went through something that is unusual, right? So, but it's not as common. Even among communists, it's not as common, right? Like you had the unique, specific situation. Okay, but does that make sense what I'm saying? You see, like the reason why I focus on the Quran? Yes. I'm also looking forward to your topic regarding Mao. So that's going to be very interesting. So I'm looking forward to that, to get into that one. So thank you for bringing that up.
Okay, let's go to Elisa next.
Could I respond real quick?
Oh, sorry, Jeffrey, I forgot.
Yeah. So, yeah, no one was talking about burning things on a campus. I talked about having a barbecue, and they very much tried that bullshit thing you just tried, which is hiding in the process and selectively applying, say, I don't know, safety laws. I was talking about having a grill, and they said, well, you have to file for that. And so I did. And they said, well, you're not going to get it. Even when you had radical leftists actually hold bonfires on campus and or grills and all kinds of other provocative shit, it was very clear that it had nothing to do with safety, had everything to do with denying a particular expression they disagreed with. So what I did is I said, that's fine. You're saying I won't be allowed to hold it on campus? No problem. I'll look at the campus map. I'll find right where that line is, and right over that line, I'm going to file for a local ordinance to sit there and have Haram Chop Day, to which then I was told, well, you still can't do that. So yeah, nice try, but not really. They tried all that bullshit, and respect goes both ways. And I promise you, the counter-revolutionary element is done being fucking polite. We're done with that shit. You want to sit there and have respect, goes both ways. Nobody's got time to hear any hiding in the process. Nobody's got time for that. So now I wasn't talking about burning things on campus. I said I was going to have a barbecue, not the same shit.
Thank you, Jeff. Elisa.
Jeff, on that point about respect, that's a really great segue into what I was going to say. I appreciate the vigorous debate happening in the chat, but I do want us to keep it respectful. I saw somebody make a comment about how, like, I need to read Romans 1, and as a Christian, I am supposed to be leading people to Jesus Christ. Look, I'm not going to make a nuisance of myself and pester Armin or anybody else for not being Christian. Armin is a grown-ass man. He's done his research. He's made up his mind. He's living his own life. I'm not his mother. I'm not his hall monitor. I'm not his minder. Okay? So yes, I will talk about Jesus and share how much I love Jesus and I love God. That's a part of my experience. That's a part of who I am as a person. But in no way does that mean that I'm going to force my way of thinking onto other people. That's not what I came here for, right? So I love Armin. I love this community. I'm really happy to be here and have conversations with everybody. And I share the gospel so that, as it says in 1 John, so that my joy can be complete. I share the gospel so that because I want to share Jesus with as many people as I can, so that more souls are saved, so that the more souls that are saved, the more my joy can be complete. That's the point. And I hope I'm being respectful too. I want to be as respectful as I can, and I hope I'm doing that.
Yeah, so far, yes. Okay, Jose.
So
Armin, I have a AI question for you to ask your AI. How did George S. Patton disrespect Germany when his army crossed the Rhine River? Put that in your AI. I'm not going to say it, just for your information, as another way to spit on a book you don't like.
Okay. Well, can you write that down? I will check it later so that it could come.
Okay.
Or is it for now?
I'll share it.
Okay. So we could go to the next person. I will check that out at some point. Thank you, Jose.
Noah is next.
Yes, I wanted to close out by following up on what Elise said. Yeah, I 100% agree with you. As a Christian, it's not my job to like force my beliefs down the throat, and I hope I'm being respectful as well. And same, I love you, Armin. But I wanted to finish with this. You know, we're starting to see, like in parts of the United States, with the rise of Christian nationalism, that there's Bibles being forced, you know, like you have to read the Bible in schools now and all that. And I obviously disagree with that. I think that's wrong. I don't think we should be forcing any religion down people's throats. It's just making them resent them more. So I thought this was an interesting debate, but my job as a Christian is to love and show respect on you, even if you don't believe what I believe, because it's not my job. But yeah, love you, Armin, and same beliefs.
Thank you. Just one thing I want to mention, like there's a lot of times where you see Christians do say that I don't want to force my views on you. This is the message of Christianity, and I love you. That's also a method of just telling people about Christianity, and I understand it. I understand what's happening, right? It's a method of basically spreading the gospel without looking like you're spreading the gospel. I understand that method, and it's a much more nicer way than that has been done historically. So I'm not like criticizing it. It is also, but I do want to encourage Christians to notice how when an atheist talks about their atheism, how all of a sudden some of them get defensive about it, right? So just be mindful of that, right? So I also, atheists do that as well. They get very defensive when Christians talk about their Christianity, and that's not good, right? People should be able to share their views, but also try to be mindful of it on the Christian side, that you see so many times when atheists talk about their atheism, and then all of a sudden everybody gets their guards up and gets really upset and butthurt. Just be mindful of that as well. So I think both sides need to show more tolerance for each side expressing their views. Okay.
Yeah, that's all the tweets on this topic. So we can check on super chats.
Oh, yes, there is a super chat. I was going to say there's no super chats, but there is one. Jens Philip. I'm not going to read the rest. Thank you. So sorry, it's a long name. But it's saying David would 8 parts of the Quran baked with bacon. Yes, and I know, and that means that he crapped the Quran as well, right? So he he turned the Quran into poop by doing that, which is, again, yeah, I don't know if that's if I think that's the most extreme form of blasphemy, and he did do that. I think I did that as well, but I don't recommend it because I think the ink is poisonous. So don't do that. And again, thank you, Jens, for the super chat.
Okay, next topic is by Alice Dare about one of the Mamdani lawsuits.
Ooh.
So I wanted to bring up this topic for two main reasons. One, because of how ironic it is. Two, because of it kind of just shows how stupid socialism and this whole communist idea is. So a little background. So a coalition of minority and immigrant business owners have filed a class action lawsuit against Mayor Zoran Mamdani over his city-run grocery stores because they are putting them in areas that are going to drastically take business away from local businesses like bodegas, delis, grocery stores, and stuff like that. And anyone who's not familiar with New York knows that those stores are primarily owned by immigrants, minorities, and stuff like that. So the Multicultural Business Coalition has filed the lawsuit on behalf of these businesses. And then that was like the little background. And then the part that kind of sums up how stupid this all is is their reaction to how to deal with the problem, that this would then take business away from minority businesses. And to anyone's surprise, with socialism, their response was to give subsidies and tax breaks to those businesses that will be affected. So essentially now we're giving more taxpayer money to a problem that was caused by the government.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Oh my God. So they, oh my God. So they're going to take more money and make things more expensive. But we predicted that this would happen, right? We predicted that
Who
this
could
would
have
happen.
possibly seen this coming?
Yeah. Like, you can't compete with the government. This is unfair to small business. And now small business is noticing that, you know, their customers are being taken away from them because they cannot compete with the government. So now that the small business is complaining, the answer is to steal from big business to give to small business. That means that you're punishing the small businesses that manage to make it big. So you see the hierarchy here: government business, small business, big business. Government business is the most inefficient and is stealing customers from small business. And when small business is realizing that this is like the government is stealing from them, then you pay them. So basically, that's the money that you're taking from big business to give to small business. That's a punishment for figuring out a way to serve more people. So you're punishing every business that has managed to find a way to create more goods and services in a more efficient way. You have to take away from them. So that means, like, you're creating less incentives to find a way to make it big, to grow, to create more wealth. So they keep kicking, instead of realizing like, oh, this was a bad idea, we shouldn't have done this. So what you do is that you delay the damage, you push it farther down the line, and you will eventually make it bigger. You have to just make it unseen, and the more you put the garbage under the carpet, eventually the bigger the stench is going to become. This is always just like every time the governments try to fix things, they break things instead of fixing it. And to cover the things that they have broken, they have to break bigger things until everything goes to crap. Anyways, there are twos in there.
We have a bunch of twos. Yeah, let's go to Jose first.
Alistair, have you heard about that experiment going off in Florida? You know what happened? The community-run grocery store went out of business. Why did it go out? And within 3 months, why? Oh, same thing Mandani's doing. They're not going to be selling meat. They're not going to have hot foods. So if those stores want to really compete against them, become a butcher shop, become a deli. Because those are the two, I worked in grocery stores, those are the two highest profiting parts of any grocery chain. And it doesn't matter how much less the Mandani makes his goods. From what I understand, he's going from even a bodega has a couple of hundred products in it. He's going to smaller numbers of products, just more of it, for everyone to be fairly represented and get their stuff. So to me, the bodegas have one way of fighting back if they weren't being taxed to shit by Mandani. So good luck, but just remember, it's happened 3 times in the United States, and all 3 times, those businesses, government-run businesses, went out of business quickly. Why? They didn't realize what makes a grocery store run.
Okay. Noah is next.
Yeah, and also, like, one of the basic things of economics is if supply goes up, supply and demand can also, like, cause prices to go up. So, like, if there's more demand on that grocery store, prices can go up. So, but I agree with what Jose said. I mean, this is not going to end well for Mondami, at least. I hope those business owners win their lawsuit.
Okay, Samantha.
I'm sorry, but like people are more important than businesses. Like people having access to food is more important than businesses staying afloat. Like remember when the bridge, like they blew up a bridge in freaking Iran, and how like both you and Goldie were saying how like, oh, like Iran's real infrastructure is the people, not the bridge. Like we can't bring Nika Shemaraki back. We can't bring Kian, I forgot his last name back, who was like a little kid who they was killed by the regime. Like that was Iran's real infrastructure. We can't bring them back. We can rebuild a bridge. The bridge is not our real infrastructure. Our real infrastructure is the people we can't bring back. Like you guys understand when it comes to Iran that like people are more important than material things. It's the same thing for America. It's the same thing for New York City. The people of New York City are more important than any material thing. The people of New York City are more important than any business. The people having access to food is more important. Like food is a need. It's not a necessity. It is a need. And people having access to food in New York City is more important than literally any other thing that could possibly exist in New York City.
Yeah. Okay. So Sam, that's why we are against all of this, because we don't think government-run grocery stores increase people's access to food. It reduces people's access to food, right? So you compare it to Iran, right? The reason we want the best infrastructure, we want the best wealth, we want the best businesses in Iran, right? The thing is that the infrastructure that we say, if you have to destroy them to destroy them, is because the infrastructure is being used by the Islamic Republic to survive. If that, I mean, I'm not in favor of going and destroying them right now, but if it comes to it, if that's what's needed, we want those infrastructures to be destroyed. If that's what's needed, so that the regime falls, so that when the regime falls, we could build better infrastructure, right, that it goes to serve the people. But we do care about the wealth of the people. You're saying like we care about people, not businesses. Well, businesses feed people, right? People need businesses. The businesses are the way, like we care about the people, but people need to live. And for people to live, they need goods and services. Who provides those goods and services? The businesses. So being pro-business is being pro-people. Do you understand? Being pro-business is being pro-people, because people need goods and services, and businesses is the framework where they receive those goods and services. Do you understand how being pro-business is being pro-people, right? Like how, like if people need food, right? People need food, people need shelter, people need clothes. Okay, who provides that? Businesses. So being pro-business is being pro-people. Okay, governments are not good at providing food, shelter, and clothing and medicine. They're not good at it. So being against the government providing these things is not us taking it the side of businesses and against the people. It's us defending the best way to provide the needs of the people to the people, the most efficient way. Because the way you look at it, Sam, is that when you see the government providing food and shelter to the people, you assume, like, for some reason you assume that it's free, just because the people who are getting the food, getting the shelter, are not paying for it while they're receiving it. But it is not free. Okay, it's being taken from somewhere else. And if you actually do the math, and I know you're good at math, so if you go and do the math, you see that they end up paying more. You know, if you do the calculation, anything that is labeled as free is actually more expensive than when it wasn't being labeled as free. Okay, because you're not paying for it at the time of consumption, you are not keeping track of how much you're paying for it. But because it's being taken away from your pocket from somewhere else, they get to take more from your pocket because you're not noticing how you're paying for it, right? And it also, because it doesn't follow the profit motive, it doesn't follow that, instead the profit incentive, it ends up being inefficient. And it reduces competition, and it reduces the quality, and it reduces the quantity. And it also, because it's not by the profit motive, and it's being done by government bureaucrats, they steal, and they basically they needlessly inflate the processes in which that takes place for you to eventually get that service or that good, right? And also because they're taking it from the parts of the society that has been the most productive and the most efficient in providing those goods and services, they kill productivity, right? Because for the government to be able to reallocate wealth, they have to take it from the productive parts of the society and give it to the less productive parts of society. And because of that, they kill productivity, and they reduce the amount of wealth that is being generated in a society. And it makes sense for the people who are less productive. At the beginning, it seemed like they're winning because something is being given to them. Okay, something is being given to them, but the size of the pie is being reduced because wealth is being redistributed, but the total amount of wealth is being reduced. So for a short amount of time, the poor feel like somebody is doing them a favor, but you could do this only for too long. At some point, there's not enough to redistribute because you have killed productivity, and there's not enough. There is no longer enough to take to give to the poor, right? So you think like what you hear when we are pro business and pro profit, the way that your mind understands it is that we are pro business and anti people. I don't need you to agree with us that this helps people, right? But I do want you to understand that we're not doing this because we think that businesses are more important than people. If we are pro business, is because we are pro people, right? And businesses are a tool to serve people. Like the end of the day, what matters is the well-being of the highest amount of people, right? And the differences between us and you is not that we have a different goal. Like it's not that you care for the people and we hate people and we hate poor people. That's not what's happening here, right? And I want you to understand, even if you disagree with our methods, and you might be right and we might be wrong, I want you to understand that people who are supporting capitalism is not because they're pro-rich people and pro-business and anti-poor people, okay? They genuinely believe, in my opinion correctly, but in your opinion wrongly, okay? But they genuinely believe that this feeds more poor people. More poor people will end up having more because of this method. They do care about the poor people. The goal is to have highest amount of well-being for the highest amount of people. Now, either your way is correct or our way is correct, okay? Or maybe something in the middle, right? But it's important to acknowledge that we're trying to achieve the same goal. Does that make sense? Okay. Thank you for listening. And I appreciate you sharing that.
Let the records show Samantha agreed and nodded. Okay, Elisa is next.
Okay, sorry, I couldn't find the mic button. Yeah, I just wanted to say to Samantha's point, at the end of the day, you got to take into account how the food gets to the grocery stores, right? So as Armin said, the farmers need to pay for fuel, fertilizer, equipment, manpower to grow the crops. Once the crops have been grown and harvested, you need more fossil fuels and manpower and equipment to get the food from the farm to the grocery stores. And that whole entire process, that whole chain costs money. Somebody's got to pay, and somebody's got to pay for it somehow along the way, right? So like that's just the reality. So it's just really important to take that into consideration, that it's like, yeah, obviously, like normal human beings who aren't sociopaths, we care about people. We want everybody to eat, but you have to take into account the reality of like, how do we make that happen, right? The other thing I wanted to say is, I kind of wanted to tie this back into how we were talking a little bit earlier about protective tariffs and everything. And Jeffrey put it in the chat about how you can have like a public-private partnership to increase efficacy. So at no point, how do I put this? there are certain things that for the purposes of national security and for the purposes of protecting sovereignty, that the government should make sure that we at all times are able to have a supply of energy, be able to produce our own energy. We don't want to rely too heavily on other countries for things that are necessary for a country to run, right? So the government does have a duty to kind of step in and make sure that those industries are being supported and protected, not by fully owning those companies, but basically the way it works is that the government would essentially provide a line of credit to private businesses. So that's how we're getting these nuclear power plants are being built. The nuclear power plants are being built by private businesses who took a line of credit from the government in order to fund those power plants getting built, right? So that's an example of a private public partnership working to make things more efficacious, right? So in that sense, that's where government intervention is working is working well, is working for the actual good of the people. But the way that Mondami, who is a communist, wants to do these public city-owned grocery stores, he's going about it in the most inefficient way possible. It's doomed to fail from the very jump.
All right, thank you, Lisa. Let's go to Alice there.
So touching on Sam's point about the poor people and people that are hungry and stuff like that, I really wish in America we had a system that was specifically designated to find the poor people and help them with food assistance. Oh wait, we do. It's called SNAP, and that system is specifically designed for people of very low income to get food assistance from the government. We already have it. It's already a system that's in place. What Mamdani is proposing is a store that is not going to, he's building 5 grocery stores for $70 million. And anyone who knows construction knows that it's going to be more than that. And this store is going to sell food 30% lower and receive free rent and tax breaks from the city. So now we're paying $70 million for 5 grocery stores that are going to be a constant drain on city resources. They're not ever going to make a profit because they're selling 30% cheaper, and they cannot, like, with that amount, you cannot support the cost of business. It doesn't work. So it's going to be a constant drain on resources. And then kind of just the way I propose this to a lot of people that I go to school with that are very that find these policies very appealing is I give them this I propose this idea. Let's say you have 2 bubblegum stores right next to each other. One of them sells bubblegum for, let's just say, $5, and it's good bubblegum. The other one sells bad bubblegum for $8. The one that sells bad bubblegum for $8 either needs to get better bubblegum and sell it and find a way to sell it at a better price, or go out of business. But if you just have one bubblegum store, they can charge whatever they want and find whatever quality bubblegum they want to sell. And there's nothing anyone can do about it. But you have 2 stores that are in competition. They're competing with each other for the best product at the best price to sell to the consumers.
Wait, Alistair, let me know if you agree with this. I believe that the only government program that I approve of when it comes to helping people who can't afford the food at market prices is to just give them the money. All right? I don't understand why, like, nobody has been able to show to me that there is a better program, government program, that could support the poor people. Like, I don't understand the SNAP and this other thing. Nothing. The SNAP thing, I don't like it. I don't like it. Wait, I think, like, I don't know what it does. Does it give people money, the SNAP program? Just anybody who can't afford food, just don't give them food. Just give them the goddamn money to go buy the food from wherever they sell food. Increase the competition instead of reducing it. But go on.
So SNAP is essentially like a voucher program, from what I understand. It's like you get like almost food vouchers, like coupons and stuff. But you know, they're either for discounted food or free food and stuff like that. and a lot of stores and a lot of private businesses accept them, and stuff like that. Which then, you know, we can get into that whole conversation about how that drains their profits another day. But I disagree with Snap in that entirely. I agree with cutting government spending so you can cut taxes so the stores can function at a lower price so they can bring prices down themselves. And now the government is not wasting money on constant programs that never end up working and end up dragging down productivity.
So no, I agree. Maximum competition to bring prices down as low as possible, but there always will be some people that wouldn't be able to even afford that, right? And I am from some level of government involvement, but whenever the government gets involved, other than some rare cases, I believe that they should enter in from the demand side and rather than the supply side, to not mess with the market, and to increase competition rather than reducing it, right? And just giving people vouchers or money to be able to universal basic income, vouchers for food or medicine or stuff like that. I don't think it ruins the competition. It actually enhances it, because even if the government doesn't run these businesses and maximum competition reduces the prices and increases the quality, there will be some people who will be out of the system completely, and the market will be blind to them because they're not doing any transactions. They're out of the system, right? And the market, as good as the market is, the market is still blind to a few things. The market is blind to positive and negative externalities, and it's also blind to the people who are completely out of the system. So the role of the government is to adjust for positive and negative externalities and lift up the people who are completely out of the system. And the way to lift them up is to lift them up from the demand side. Does that make sense? Yeah, okay.
Okay, now it's Jeffrey's turn.
Jeff.
Yeah, so I'm kind of like in the middle, sort of a third way issue. I'm definitely supply side. So there's definitely times where you need public intervention, where there's a market imperfection defined as a public need, but not a market niche. A good idea would be vaccines, right? Dynamic learning curve, first mover advantage. Provided the public sector can fix the problem, the benefits is greater than the cost to fix it, and that the public approach towards fixing that problem is better than private or mixed approaches towards fixing it, provided that it's an investment in productivity, focusing on leveraging organizational and technological efficacy to lower the per unit goods and the cost of goods and services while maintaining the profit margin, so you expand it to a broader demographic, its availability. Ultimately, the goal would be to sit there and turn certain, say, goods or services into non-excludable public goods because they become so efficient that it's too cheap to even price, right? There's a difference between, so what does that look like? Take retraining people that were just technologically displaced between the first and second industrial era. This should speak to you, Samantha, right? So you have a Kondratiev wave. K-wave, very much a term coined by a Soviet economist, Kondratiev, I'm probably mispronouncing that, who very much hated socialism and advised that the Soviet Union adopt a free market capitalist system like America, to which then Stalin threw him in a gulag and killed him. In any case, he came with this conceptual framework. This is industrial. These are economic eras centered around leading sectors and tech bundles. First industrial era: steam, iron metallurgy, coal, replaced by oil, internal combustion engine, and oil, right? So what do you do now, using that as a framework? What do you do to help the guys that have outdated skill sets, say like coal, right? Because they've been displaced. So a communist or a socialist or a Maoist or leftist say, we're going to take money from the oil guys, the leading sectors in current supplanted K-ways, then redistribute it to people who are displaced so that they have free income to subsidize induced short-term consumption of non-leading non-core goods and services. Say for this case, food, right? The problem with that is you're killing your productive base, and they never talk about like the transaction costs and taking money, because you don't just to take money, it costs money. So if you're taking $100 from this guy, this is where Armin's like, I would contend he's got sort of an argument, right? Because there's this inefficiency, right? Takes $10, take $100, now the person gets $90, and Armin's saying just give the $100 to the guy, right? Because then you save the transaction costs. Libertarians or ANCAP say, well, fuck it, let them sink or swim on their own. The market will equilibrate. Well, that's not valid either, because there's all these negative externalities there. People don't starve to death on the side of the road. So it's like a neocon do. I'm going to invest in those people to retrain them so that they have skill sets that qualify them for higher levels of employment, and have targeted tax cuts in, say, our home nation, so that national industries have the free wherewithal to hire them when they get out. Well, I don't understand why we don't just give them, money to buy beer and potato chips, because chips are not chips and parts are not parts, right? You have to take the money from somewhere, Samantha. You get a lot more positive spillovers, something called the value-added mix of the economy. You get a lot more positive spillovers with things like efficacy than you do potato chips that gives people like hypertension and obesity. There's all kinds of problems with how leftists claim they want to solve shit. And it's never worked anywhere. Nowhere. Not in the Soviet Union, not in Mao's China, nowhere. It's been a dismal failure. That doesn't mean that ANCAP is the right way either. There's very specific reasons and requirements that justify public intervention. And even then, if they're met, there's certain particular ways that has to be done where you can minimize the negative externalities of that public intervention. That's not what Mondami's doing. He doesn't care about people starving, and neither do communists.
Okay, and then one more response from Elisa, and then we'll move on to other topics.
I was so invested in what Jeffrey was saying that I forgot what my point was going to be, so you can move on.
All right, then we will go to super chats.
Okay. That was good. All right, so let's do super chats. By the way, guys, I'm not an ANCAP, just where you guys want to know. There's 4 types of capitalism, and I'm only in favor of one of them, right? There is laissez-faire capitalism, state capitalism, crony capitalism, and regulated capitalism. I'm in favor of regulated capitalism. Not those other 3 don't work. And I also I'm not an ANCAP at all. Like I mentioned many times, I see a major role for the government. I was just telling Alistair that the market is blind to multiple things that the government needs to adjust for. Zipgun, thank you so much for the super chat, saying DSA Maoists consider defacement of their Red Book as political warfare and justify violence in response. Oh, wow. They don't believe in free speech at all. Yeah, I don't. Okay. Is that Samantha not? Yes? Okay, Samantha is saying yes, true. Okay. That's crazy. So Namanda, and that's me, Namanda. Samantha is our expert into all things communist cult related. She's our spy from within. Zipgun, thank you so much for the super chat, saying I would argue the goals are not the same. Socialist goals are absolute, enough food for everyone. Capitalists believe more food for more people. Yeah, so I'm not talking about socialism. Socialism is like, I think, and communism is cancer, right? But what I'm suggesting is that well-meaning people who have believed in this ideology, who don't know otherwise, who have just fell for it, wrongly in my opinion, their goal is highest. Their goal is to help humanity. So yeah, maybe like enough food for everybody rather than more food for more people. Whatever. I'm talking about the end goal. I'm not talking about the amount of food or any intermediary steps to get to that final destination. But I think all good people, by definition, in my opinion, because I'm a utilitarian, all good people want the highest amount of well-being for the highest amount of people. So even if they believe that, if they're good people, it's because they think that produces the highest amount of well-being. That's the way I see it. And thank you, Sudipgan, for the super chat. And then Jens Philip Human, I think, is saying with a super chat saying, I called the mayor Saron Skamdani for a reason. Okay, so now you gave us the same super chat saying that in the last stream, and I had no idea what you're talking about, but now I understand it. We didn't read it properly last time. Saron Skamdani. Okay, all right. Thank you so much, Jens. And then Zipcom with the last super chat saying the problem with direct payments is misuse. Most poor are poor for a reason. Drug abuse, alcoholism, etc. Yeah, I mean, vouchers, like pay them in a way that could you only be used like credits, food credits, voucher. Like if you're paying for healthcare, vouchers that could be used for healthcare. If it's food, then for food. Yeah, but I understand that there's challenges with that. But the cost of trying to do that the right way is much less than the cost of associated with the government itself trying to provide the food, provide shelter, provide healthcare. So figuring out a way to make sure that the money you're putting in the hands of the poor, for it to only be spent on the things that they're supposed to be spent on, that is an easier problem to solve than the government providing those services itself. And thank you, Zipgram, for the super chat. All right, what's the next topic?
Next, Samantha wants to talk about her letter to Mao.
Mao, okay.
Dear Mao, to your portrait, your people would bow. You chanted, serve the people. Your first priority should be to serve your people. Every leader should consider serving their people most dear. Your people were faithful. They were under your spell, but your army wasn't invincible. When they were clearly in hell, when China's food supply sadly fell, the Red Cross generously offered food to your people. You, author of the Little Red Book, arrogantly crossed a line that was evil. You should never be left off the hook for not serving your people, for caring more how it would look if the offer to help that was given was took. During the famine, Mao, you cared more about the eyes that are Western than unfed stomachs of China's starving. Lies from your lips were spoken. You did not serve your people when they had no food on their table. So, Chairman Mao, I completely hate you now. Wishing the people of China prosperity and the best. Sincerely, an ex-Maoist.
Oh, wow, that was great. That was beautiful. Yes, look at everyone clapping. Thank you, Samantha. That was beautiful. Wow. Okay. We love it. Okay. You know, Samantha, I really admire your ability to change views. It makes me think like, what have I changed my opinion on recently? And if not, am I being too dogmatic? So you inspire me to keep looking and see if there's anything that I need to change my views on. So thank you for that. Well done.
Okay, thank you so much, Samantha. I don't see any twos, so let's go on to Rebecca, who wants to talk about cultural war of words.
Okay.
Hello. I have something prepared for this as well. Sorry if my voice shakes. My anxiety's playing up a bit. Okay. Backfiring words and phrases. Outside of the modern left, woke has become a cathartic slur. Likewise, words like suicidal empathy is being used to describe the left's self-destructive relationships with hostile groups. However, because of the differences between how that segment of the left thinks and how other people use words like woke and suicidal, empathy is backfiring and widening the gulf around that segment of the population, making them harder to reach. Everything our minds work with consciously, including feelings and words, are summaries of subconscious processes drawing on massive calculations, data, and layered rules. There are multiple levels to this, but when it comes to words, the surface level and the level immediately below can be easily reached. Take the word dog. On hearing that word, everyone's mind is subconsciously and immediately mapping all the meanings we have associated with that word. A dog is an animal, 4 legs, fur, tail. They can be friendly, they can be dangerous. People may keep them as pets or work with them in jobs. You might see them in parks or as strays in the street, depending on where you live. Beyond that, we have more personal meaning mapped to the word according to experience, beliefs, culture, and what we have been taught. People with bad experiences or negative teachings tied to dogs may have the weights of their subconscious calculations more heavily skewed to the negative, which is easily seen with most Muslims whose ideology means their minds heavily bias the word dog to tie it to danger and disgust. Say the word dog to a loving Western person and the word lands very differently in their minds compared to the average Muslim. Indeed, many Muslims use that word as a serious insult. For the hypocritical segment of the left, they hear woke and they think and feel meanings like aware and fair and just and righteous. They wear it as a badge of honor, so using it as a slur encourages them to double down, not rethink. So I propose that people stop calling them woke and instead call them hypocrites, or destructive, or bigoted. When you break down what they really say and do, they are clearly very bigoted, and calling them that is a shot to everything they claim to uphold. Likewise with the word suicidal empathy. Suicidal is a very serious and extreme word. People hear that and what it means, and to the extreme lefty, it doesn't compute when held up to the context of the world as they see it. So when we say suicidal empathy, the main thing they hear is empathy, and that word is at the center of what they think is good about themselves and their worldview. So again, it is a badge of honor. Instead of suicidal empathy, I suggest something like calling them self-destructive, which is true, or pandering. Pandering is not a positive word. It implies weakly sucking up and appeasing to people who do not deserve it, who may even be abusive, which is what they are doing. Keeping the words we use grounded in how they land in their minds, as well as ours, is an important way to reach them and help them see what we are seeing.
Thanks, Rebecca. Samantha wants to respond.
Yeah, so like if you've never been like in a space where like certain words are like considered insults and compliments, and then gone to another space where like things kind of flip in terms of which words are considered insults and compliments, I have to say it can be incredibly freeing, because it is so like, I love the fact that I can like Zionist is a compliment in this group. Like, yay, because I'm a Zionist. And like, you know, I'm so used to being in spaces where like Zionist is like hissed like an insult. And same thing with like patriot and nationalistic, because like I'm a patriot and I'm like pro like being nationalistic and nations. But then it's also like so weird, just like, how do I say, it is so weird being in a space where it's like, oh my God, you guys are using like communist as an insult. That is just, you have no idea how weird that feels. Or like using capitalist as like, you know, compliment. Like that's just so freaking, it is beyond weird to like hear that. And like, oh my God, the weirdest thing was like the first time someone used MAGA as like, someone said like, oh, someone's not MAGA, like it's an insult calling someone not MAGA. That just felt so weird. So like, yeah.
Sam, I have a question. Isn't communism anti-nationalism to some degree?
A lot of communists are anti-nationalist. I mean, there's people who will make the argument that Lenin was nationalistic. I've heard people make the argument before that Mao was nationalistic. So most communists are anti, but like some people will sometimes argue. Yeah, I've heard Mao argued less frequently than Lenin, but some people will argue.
No, but the original text, like, let's go to Marx, because I think, like, if you go to the fundamental core.
Well, yeah, Marx was international.
Yeah, so I mean, it all comes from. I mean, so how could we be communist and patriotic at the same time? Because my understanding is that Marxism is against national allegiances, and it's all the division is the global working class against the global bourgeoisie interests. and the nation states is a way to divide the workers against each other. And so that's why it was fundamentally anti the nation state model and therefore anti-patriotic, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, if that's your view of it, but like, I believe that like we should have communism within the nation. Like, I don't support one world rule up by any means. I think that like we shouldn't be communist as a one world rule system. I think we should be communist within the nation. Like each nation should be communist.
Okay, but that goes against the core of communist principles, though, right?
I mean, it goes against something that Marx believed, but like you can still have a communist system within a nation.
Okay, I see your point. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Samantha. Kari, you're up next.
Yes, very interesting, Samantha. I was just wondering how it could be weird for communism to be an insult, because in my head I've always kind of associated communism with Soviet totalitarianism and Stalin and gulags and, you know, famines and so on. And I've always thought of communism and Nazism as being kind of the two great totalitarian evils of the 20th century, and I've basically always thought that that was the mainstream position in society, and well, it is, that those were the two main evils of the 20th century. And so I wonder, basically, I mean, I don't mean to be rude, but how isolated has your existence been in your life?
I mean, I always heard, yeah, like, I mean, like I say, it's very weird hearing like communism be used as an insult, because it's like I hear communism and it's like you're saying like I care about equality, I care about the people, I care about all people, I care about the poor, I want to uplift all people. Like that's kind of like what I hear when I hear someone like say like I am a communist, like I am for the people, I care about the people, I care about the most like underprivileged people.
Yeah. And by the way, guys, Samantha has a lot of self-awareness to know that this was, you have been conditioned into believing this, right? And I think that's a lot more self-awareness than most people have. Even the people on our side, many people who believe communism is bad, they don't actually have a reason for why communism is bad. They also have been conditioned to believing in communism is bad. Like, I believe communism is bad, but I do think that most of the people who think communism is good and people who think communism is bad, they're just repeating the things that have been told to them by their environment, right? There are few people who actually objectively analyze this and come to the conclusions. But I think what I admire about Samantha is that she many times acknowledges that many of her views that she still holds on to is because of the emotional attachment that she has to those things, and it's a hard term that she has a hard time letting go of them for emotional reasons. Am I describing that correctly, Samantha? Not all of them, but some of them, I mean.
I don't know.
Okay, you don't. Okay.
Jeffrey, put it too.
Yeah, it's a very interesting discussion. Again, Sam, I want to applaud you for your letter. I know it wasn't easy. I appreciate that. So when you think about classical Marxism, Leninism, Stalinism, or Maoism, and the overlap or the lack thereof in many cases regarding the idea of a nation state or nationalism. So classic Marxism, very much its end goal was a stateless international communism. It kind of viewed people sort of like a block of coral. Leninism, its end goal was the same after a transition. Stalinism, same in theory. Maoism, same in theory. The immediate vehicle to obtain that desired end state for classical Marxism was national seizure of power, and then it would to smash the bourgeoisie, and then the state would just wither and die away. So it very much used or tried to co-opt nationalism at a very superficial level for short-term tactical expediency. As far as Leninism, the immediate vehicle is like a strong state, correct me if I'm wrong here, Sam, a strong proletarian state plus the warped version of what they presented as self-determination. Its attitude regarding existing nation states was to smash empires, grant secession right to those in said empires, and it used a superficial redefinition of nationalism as a tactic against what they viewed as non-communist and or like imperialist, like older imperialist elements. So the practice and the state in practice was very much strengthened as an instrument regarding Leninism. Stalinism, very much powerful socialist state in one country, defend and industrialize the Soviet state to create a center of gravity. The nationalism was official socialist, was redefined around socialism, and it strengthened the state massively to fight non-communist and or socialist systems. Maoism very much, looked at, the idea of national liberation state and continuous revolution as their immediate vehicle. Its attitude towards existing nation states was to hijack under the auspices or the war, like the dishonest officer they were liberating it, think of Chiang Kai-shek, to build a Maoist nation state. It very much then perverted the idea of nationalism and refiltered it through Maoism so people would have this public buy-in, and then the state in practice became massively strengthened, right? Socialism is the statist form of communism. So if you want to think like vis-a-vis the human condition, this is also why they're so alien. I mean, communism views humanity kind of like a block of coral where everybody and nobody controls the reef. You have little tiny things filtering out like raw inputs from the water, whereas socialism views people like hive mind insects, right? You have the state is the deliberative element, and you have all your worker bees that the queen bee will tell you this is what you got to do. All of that kind of violates the top tier of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which is why people don't like that, because you're undermining their self-actualization, forcibly so, and what they view as good, evil, how they view the world. And there's additional structural deficiencies quite often because the allocation of resources centers on obtaining their desired end state instead of increasing efficacy, which would actually benefit more people. At least that's like, the counterfactual assessment. Was I pretty accurate, though, in kind of like outlining the overlap or the lack thereof between Marxism, Leninism, Stalinism, and Maoism and the idea of a nation state?
Yeah, that part was pretty accurate.
One thing I want to ask Sam, because I feel you're a mathematician, and I think math is the fundamental language of the universe, right? I think everything is at the end of the day just math. Everything comes down to math, and I think that the way you evaluate capitalism versus communism, I wish it was more mathematical, right? Given that you're a math expert. Because I think like you're using the emotional feeling, like the feelings that you get, emotional feelings tied to certain words and certain messaging to judge whether capitalism works or communism works. Okay, you're hearing the messaging, and the beauty of the messaging or the emotional connection that you have to the messaging is what you're using to judge which one is working and which one doesn't, which one is the stated goals of these systems, right? You're trying to see which one vibes with what you want for humanity more, right? But at the end of the day, if you care about humanity, I think caring for humanity means that you want to increase well-being, and well-being is mathematically measurable if you define it properly. And not only the well-being is mathematically measurable, you could also measure what causes it, right? There is enough data and empirical evidence to do a mathematical analysis on what actually improves well-being. So given that you're a mathematician, I would encourage you to go and look at all of this mathematically and see what conclusions you come up with.
Okay, and I have one more response from Rebecca.
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly, focusing on you again, Samantha, is the way you described how strange it was to jump between these different groups, and the way the words that were used, and the emotional context and the meaning that was attached to the different words. That is something I think people need to pay attention to, especially those of us who are interested in the way the world is going, because that is such a cause of such a divide between different groups. And if we could pay attention to it and bridge that gap more, I think it would have a big impact on how we're communicating with each other and expressing what each side is feeling. That's just the note I wanted to end it on.
All right, so that's it for this topic. Let's check on super chats. I don't think we'll have time for the next one, but we'll see.
We have 5 super chats, and as many people are commenting that I think Jeff has is turning into a holy man or whatever. I guess we look at the lighting. There's a lot of commenting on Jeff turning into a saint or something. Okay, so let's go with the super chat. Eric, thank you so much for the super chat, saying Snap is cash for food on a card. Okay, I didn't know that. I'm not an American, so sorry guys if I didn't know that. Okay, so that actually sounds closer to what I had in mind. As long as it's not being, traded for other things, there needs to be an enforcement mechanism so that it actually does what it's supposed to do. But yeah, that's great. Thank you, Eric, for that super chat. And Casey with a super chat saying it's always nice to hear Rebecca speak. I know, right? Like her voice is very soothing. Yes, thank you, Casey, and her opinions are great too, by the way. But yes, thank you, Casey. And then we got another super chat by Vandai Veld saying, I hate the term suicidal. Okay, I shouldn't be saying that. You know what? I'm just gonna say it's screw YouTube algorithm. Suicidal empathy, since it's not empathy at all. Yeah, I think that's what Rebecca's points were. But pandering moral performatism. Rebecca Abbott took words out of my mouth. Exactly. So Rebecca was making the same point. And Van Dyveld, thank you so much for the super chat and for a great point. Zipgun with a super chat saying both Hitler and Lenin were National Socialists. Both abused their neighbors to provide benefits to their citizens. Yeah, I mean, it didn't at all work out the way that Marx thought it would, right? Like, Marx thought that Marxism is going to unite the workers of the world against the capitalists of the world. But, communist countries themselves were actually turning against each other, right? And also Marx predicted that this will happen. This whole movement will start in the most wealthy countries first, and then it will spread everywhere else. But it actually did the opposite of what Marx predicted, right? So, yeah. So the division between nations and races and sexes that Marx predicted will go away, and everything would be about the working class versus the capitalist class. None of that happened. And thank you, Zipgun, for the super chat. And Amir with the super chat saying confetti, getting us to our goal, which is actually surprising for this stream. We usually don't get to our goal on this stream. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much for the support. We got a lot of support today. And thank you, Amir. Not just for the super chat, but also for celebrating us reaching our goal. And Jens with the final super chat saying socialism and fascism are basically neo-feudalism. Okay, I have to think about that. But I do believe the way I look at it is socialism leads to fascism, but fascism doesn't necessarily lead to socialism, because I think socialism and communism are centralized, top-down command economic control, and fascism is top-down centralized political control, both are anti-liberty. Fascism is anti-political liberty, and socialism is anti-economic liberty. But to control the economy, you also need to control politics. So socialism and Marxism, if you eventually would lead to fascism, because you can't control the economy unless you control the politics. So fascism, so that's why communism, socialism, and Marxism eventually would lead to fascism. And thank you so much, gents, for the super chat. And then we had Fit Over 50 Fitness giving us 10 joules. Thank you so much for the support. All right, so that's, oh my God, we're over time. Oh no, oh no. All right, guys, I gotta go, and I'm gonna go get ready for the next stream. Guys, make sure you check out our group discussion, because tomorrow it's free. Today is VIP, that's why it's a small group. But tomorrow it's free. That means anybody can join this discussion group and come join our group call. The link to our discussion group is in the description. In the description, it's in the QR code in the top left. So join our group and come and say hi to everybody over here and join the conversation. And remember, the part that is live stream is 2 hours, but then after I go, it continues after me. Sometimes it takes people are here for hours. So join it. It's fun. It's a great place to meet new people and, you know, people who are interested in politics. So come here and say hi to everybody over here. All right, I'm going to go, and also people on YouTube, I'm going to go live again in half an hour. So make sure you're subscribed for that. And I'll see you guys in the group same time tomorrow. And until then, I'm Israel Chai, Slava Ukrainian, Cuba Libre, Taiwan GIO, Long Live America, Javid Shah, Payande, Iran.